All right, let's give it like a couple more minutes for people to join, and then we can start taking a little stuff for tomorrow. All right, let's give it like. There's a lot of stuff actually looking good for tomorrow. I want to actually cover SPY first. That way you guys can have an idea. I'm doing it through YouTube today. In that way we can actually share to those that live in a different time zone. So one of the reasons that I'm choosing YouTube today. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff actually. Everything is actually looking really really good for tomorrow. I think there's a possibility of basically having a small consolidation around those 404, 405 on SPY, and basically start reversing back down a little. Maybe test those 400s tomorrow. I think we have CPI in. I think it's not this week. It's probably the next one, but maybe we see a little consolidation around these levels. I think on SPY right now, we are extremely high on the 4 hours. There has to be a little more. There has to be a little cool off right now. We are basically trending at those 3 points. We're probably gonna do a small consolidation around here. Maybe have a small cool off. But for sure, we need to hold those 400s. If we hold those 400s, there's a big possibility of keep breaking levels to the upside. Let's take a look at the daily. Yeah, we definitely broke those that downtrending that we had around this section over here. The next one is probably gonna be this one over here, which is basically sitting 408, 409 on SPY. We're actually crossing up on the daily right now, and we're actually getting nice buying pressure. You can see here that we had a similar run back in December, and I ended up going all the way to all those highs on February 3rd, and then we reversed back down. But maybe if we see something like that and test those 415, 416. But overall, I think this is probably where we're gonna go. This is probably where we're gonna go. Again, I think we're probably gonna do a small consolidation around the 404, 405, maybe even test those 400s. I'm still holding those calls from Thursday. They're up. I think they ended up closing around 400%. The main takeaway on that was basically that flag. We basically got in here when it bounced from the bottom of the flag, and actually did pretty good. There was actually kind of like a double bottom with a bullish divergence on this one. You can see it on here in this section over here that we actually held pretty good. We never actually dropped from the level, and once that we actually bounced from that flag, ended up actually running extremely high. Alright, so again, I think we're probably gonna have a small consolidation around here, maybe even test those 400s, and if we hold, we're probably gonna keep going up and test the top of that big trend, which is basically 408, 409. Alright, so let's take a look at the stop for tomorrow. There's 3 things that I'm actually looking right now, which is basically this. I do like Walgreens, but I prefer CVS. They are basically in the same level, on the same sector, whatever. So I'm probably gonna go with CVS. But either way can work. The main problem with CVS is been lagging behind Walgreens. If you look at Walgreens right now, we basically bounced from the bottom of that flag and ended up actually testing the top. But CVS didn't run at all on Friday. And Friday was actually a pretty bullish day. The main thing on CVS that I'm seeing is basically the PMG on the daily. We had around seven candles right now, making lower lows and making lower highs. I think that candle that we had on Friday is a pretty good reversal candle. And I think if we actually break the highs from Friday, which is basically 80, 82, we probably gonna trigger and maybe had a really fast and hard run to the upside. Remember, PMG is that it's more than 5 candles making lower lows and lower highs, and whenever we actually trigger the previous high from the previous candle, we ended up taking 2 or 3 more candles. So I think if we trigger the PMG, there's a big possibility of first taking those 82.15s and maybe even going all the way to 83 tomorrow. So I think target, speaking realistically, is probably those 83s, but we definitely need to trigger those 81, 98, or basically 82. If you look at the 4 hours on this one, we are basically crossing up. We are so a little negative right now. We're basically trending those 1.4, 1.5, and we usually bounce around that level. You can see actually a bounce here, and you can see another bounce around here. So we are actually in a pretty good spot right now. Again, the most important thing that I say is the PMG. Going to the 1 hour, we are a little high. So maybe we see a small consolidation on opening and then start a run at like maybe a 10 or 11, because we are a little high right now. We kind of also in a descending wedge or flag or whatever you want to call it. We're basically testing the top. We test the top. We kind of got like a small rejection there, so there's the possibility of reversing down with the hourly. All right. But again, I think if we trigger the highs from that PMG, we probably gonna go. I think we had a similar situation with Lyft. I think we had a PMG at those 985, and it basically triggered. You can see it here, at those yellow lines, and ended up going all the way to basically the second target, which is 1013. That's what we actually got rejected. So basically, this I'm expecting something similar on CVS tomorrow. Levels to watch on this one, I'm gonna be looking at 81, 84 for calls, which is this level over here. Breaking down one is gonna send us basically to the resistance, which is 81, 97, and after that we're gonna go to 82.10, which is this level over here. 82.10 is gonna be out of that flag, and there's gonna be the next candle. Actually, the next level is gonna be basically the next level on the PMG, which is basically 82.42. Premiums are extremely cheap, so again, it looks actually really good for this week. For puts, 81.72. Breaking down one is gonna send us to 81.58, and under that we're gonna go to 81.48. Under 81.48, we're probably gonna go to the bottom of the flag, which is basically 81.20. No much movement for the past couple days, so again, I think this one is actually getting ready for a Mayer movement. Looking at dark pool, look at this. Look at the dark pool on this thing. There's been a lot of accumulation on this one. Look at this order that came in at the end of the day on Friday. 1.5 million shares, $123 million in shares. We have another one for $53 million, which is basically 650,000 shares. We have another one for 400,000 shares. So there's been a lot of accumulation on this one. We basically have another one here. There was another one, I think, $8 million. So it's been like having a lot of accumulation on this one for the past couple of days. So I think again, I think this one is probably gonna run tomorrow. Again, 81.84 for calls, 81.72 for puts. The next one I'm gonna be looking at is gonna be Paramount. The main thing on Paramount is basically the breakout of that flag. This one we ended up doing actually good on Thursday. I think we did like what 200% or something like that. Had a really good run. I basically broke those 21.88. There was a lot of resistance around that level, which is this one over here, and ended up actually going to the top of the flag, and that breaked out on Friday. You can see here. We basically opened on top of it on Friday, but we didn't move much, which is nice. Remember, we don't have what we're looking for is basically a small candle after that massive run, and we basically have one. So there's a possibility of having a little small reversal on testing the bottom of the top of the previous flag, which is basically 22. And if that happened, I think we're probably gonna do good in puts. If we keep going up, we have a gap to fill all the way to 23.18. So maybe we see a movement up on this one to the upside. Levels on this one, I'm gonna be looking at 2266. Breaking down one, the next one is gonna be basically 2280, and after that we have 23. For puts, 2237. Dropping from that is gonna send us basically to the bottom of that flag, which is 2218, 2215, and under that we're gonna go to 22. Under 22, there's a big possibility of going back inside that trend. Under that trend, big possibility of revisiting this level over here, which is basically 2120, 21910. Let's take a look at dark pool on this one. Not so much. I think most of the orders that came in were a couple days ago when we had the massive run, but still showing some. I think the main accumulation is basically between those 2150 and 2180, which is one of those levels that we actually broke. But again, that gap might actually be a pretty good magnet to keep having continuation. Remember, most of the times, whenever we actually break out from a trend, the main target is basically the neckline of the trend, which is in this case is sitting at 2460. We had I want to show you guys what we actually had on SPY. The flag was basically from 124, and we ended up actually getting rejected there at the neckline. So most of the times you usually go all the way to the neckline of the trend. The case of Paramount, realistically speaking, this is almost too far out. So I'm looking forward for a fill of that gap between 2320 and 2284. So let's see if that happens tomorrow. Again, 2266 for calls, 2237 for puts. Alright, next one is gonna be Chewy, another one that basically didn't run at all on Friday. We had a massive day in the market, and this kind of like behind. I think Chewy might be getting ready for a move up to the upside. It doesn't have an inside day. It has kind of like in the middle candle. So I think we're probably gonna see another test of that symmetrical triangle and go up to the upside. Look at what MACD is basically sitting at on the daily. We are pretty close to where we usually bounce from. We haven't earnings in 2 weeks, so maybe we start seeing a little more volatility on this one. Premium is actually pretty cheap because that consolidation that we just had. Look at 4 hours. We are a little bullish, so there's a possibility of rejections at the top and reversing back down to the bottom of it, which is sitting basically at 39.30. Alright, so levels to watch on this one. I'm gonna be looking at 40.65 for calls. Breaking down one, the next one is gonna be basically 41, and after that we have 41.27. Over that, there's a possibility of going to 42.13 basically. For puts, I'm gonna be looking at 40.12. Under that, we have a small resistance of 40. There's not so many candles passing by, but that's usually a nice resistance because of the whole number situation. But the next one is basically 39.80, and under that we're definitely gonna go with the bottom of the flag or the bottom of the symmetrical triangle at 39.42. We're closing down on the hourly too, so that might actually see a little push to the downside on this one. I do like it a lot. This one actually moved extremely fast, so if you're going in this one, you have to be extremely careful. Let's take a look at dark pool. Not much coming in on this one. Most of the volume that came in was basically on the 27. But if you look at it, we've basically been having, or we've been trending at the same levels for 4 days already, 5 days actually. So we might see a sudden movement on this one. So if it's not tomorrow, probably the day after tomorrow. But that consolidation, that symmetrical triangle is actually getting extremely tight. So whenever we actually break on this one, it's gonna be actually pretty good. It tends to run extremely hard. Again, you can see here from 47 all the way down to 44, from 43 all the way down to 40. So you have to be extremely careful. If you hit it good, you can probably do 200-300% easily on this one. Again, 40.65 for calls and 40.12 for puts. I think that's probably gonna be all. I do like Macy's for tomorrow. I do like Walgreens, but I prefer CVS over Walgreens. But I'm gonna be evaluating Macy's tomorrow morning. This one actually dropped. Sorry, this one actually gap up on earnings and ended up actually kind of like having a small consolidation. Usually, what happens after earnings, if we either actually start selling to the downside, but we have kind of like a gap up, or we start moving to the upside a little. But I think most of the cases tends to actually reverse a little and try to fill that gap that you basically made between 2140 and 2047. I want to see what happened tomorrow on pre-market on this one. I do like it a lot. It has an inside day, small candle after the big candle from earnings, so I'm expecting a little more volatility on this one tomorrow. I do like it for a small reversal down, so I'm gonna be probably looking at this one in puts. If market kind of like do a small consolidation or reverse a little, this one is probably gonna drop a little harder. So I'm gonna add it to my watch list probably tomorrow morning. I might actually drop the levels on pre-market. Anyway, CVS, Paramount, and Chewy. Anything else, I'm probably gonna be alerting on Discord. If you need any help or if you want to actually talk to someone, you can actually always send me a message on Discord all the time. I'm actually available all the time. But yeah, everything is looking pretty good for tomorrow. So I hope we do extremely good. I'm gonna actually I'm recording this stream in the way you guys can visit it later, and I'm gonna post it on my channel. Anyway,